Did you guys notice that Captain America the Winter Soldier and Spider-Man Far From Home follow the exact same structure? Well, not exactly the same structure, but very, very similar, and nobody's noticed. So that's what I'm going to break apart today. I know you guys are probably very confused, yet also intrigued by that hook. Come on, you guys should call me Nate Dogg, that hook was so good. But anyways, Captain America the Winter Soldier and Spider-Man Far From Home follow a very similar structure. That structure being a superhero, in one case Peter Parker, and in the other case Steve Rogers, that team up with S.H.I.E.L.D., who are a government agency in the Marvel Universe, and then they fight a character who was once close to them, but betrayed them. In the case of Captain America, it was Bucky Barnes, his close friend, who got brainwashed by Hydra, and in Peter Parker's case, it was an old friend of his old mentor and father figure Tony Stark, Mysterio Quentin Beck. But, yeah, they look very similar once I break it down, but one of them works and the other one fails. In Winter Soldier's case, it is very heavily praised. It is regarded as one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, if not the greatest by some people. I wouldn't put it on that high. I think it's kind of overrated. I think Civil War is infinitely better, and I will die on that hill. And Far From Home is very polarizing. There are some people that really like it, but there are some people that hate on it as well. I personally think the Tom Holland Spider-Man films get way too much hate for no reason. I think Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man, but Far From Home is the weakest of his trilogy. And why do they have two vastly different receptions? I think it's to do with how the MCU approach filmmaking as a whole. They're not, like, a lot of their films aren't superhero films in the traditional sense. They're like genre-based films with superheroes integrated in them. Captain America the Winter Soldier is fundamentally a spy thriller with superhero elements. It took inspiration from old, like, action films from the 2000s, like The Matrix or Speed. I guess they must love taking inspiration from Keanu Reeves films. And, yeah, it leaned into that spy thriller genre. That's why it is regarded so highly by the general audience who aren't crazy about superhero films and just think it's a really cool spy thriller, and it stands alone as a good spy thriller, and people who love that genre are gonna fuck with it. Whereas with Far From Home, think about it. It's like a mismatch of genres. It's like half of that like high school comedy feel, which I think Spider-Man Homecoming nailed, and it's also got like some of that spy thriller genre in there because of the S.H.I.E.L.D. influence. But then it feels like a conventional superhero film because Mysterio really like leans into the superhero nature with his like cape and all that fucking shit. So there is a lot of tonal whiplash in Spider-Man Far From Home. I think a big problem with it is that it leans too much into comedy. Whereas with Spider-Man Homecoming, it like got the comedy right. It was fundamentally a high school comedy with superhero elements, which made it so fun to watch. But also, did working with S.H.I.E.L.D. feel natural to the characters? Well, with Steve Rogers in the comics and other Marvel media, he has an extensive history of working with S.H.I.E.L.D. Hence why Captain America the Winter Soldier felt faithful to his character. Whereas Far From Home and Spider-Man, did Spider-Man and S.H.I.E.L.D. have much of a history together in the comics? Well, I could be wrong, but from what I've seen, Spider-Man and S.H.I.E.L.D. don't really have that much of a history. In fact, they've only teamed up once in the With Great Power comic, or that I've seen. And that wasn't even a Spider-Man story. It was a fucking Miles Morales story, and in that universe, it was after Peter Parker died. So, again, it doesn't work in that regard, and I understand what they're trying to do. They were trying to take, like, a darker approach to Spider-Man, but, again, it did lean too much into comedy, especially with Homecoming being so cheery and fun, and, yeah, it did not work in my opinion. Also, the time in which they were released. Winter Soldier was in Phase 2, where they were gradually building up the MCU as a whole and building up the characters and the universe, where Steve Rogers was coming off the Avengers 2012, where in the 2012 Avengers film, we saw Steve work with S.H.I.E.L.D., we saw Black Widow, we saw that area of Marvel was already very well established, whereas with Far From Home, it was following the entire Infinity Saga, and it was just coming off of Avengers Endgame. I think it did do a good job at showing off the aftermath of Avengers Endgame and the blip and the 5-year time skip, but equally it had a lot riding on it, where it was like epilogue to the Infinity Saga as a whole, and with all that responsibility, it didn't live up the way it did. I guess you could say that with great power comes great responsibility. I also think the development of both protagonists are very, very different in this film. Where Steve Rogers, he is obviously coming off Avengers 2012, and this film does a great job at developing his character. It gives him a really good arc. In Avengers 2012, it shows him working alongside the government, and in this case, it shows him like a case of like, can you trust Hydra? Like, it was just one big mindfuck. And Mysterio did do a good job at fucking up Peter Parker, fucking up all his stuff, and like really fucking with his mind. Like when he in the illusion scene where he sees like his dead mentor, and that like really fucks him up. I've said the word fuck way more times than I should count. You should call me Deadpool. And yeah, that does sound really good on paper. But how is Peter Parker's arc handled? Well, I think given how this was past Avengers Endgame and only took 2 years after Spider-Man Homecoming release-wise, it really just... It had a lot riding on it, and it treated Peter Parker's arc as an afterthought. He essentially went through the same arc he did in Homecoming of like learning to hold his own without Tony Stark's influence. And if he had like a different, like better arc in that film, it could have really elevated the film as opposed to making it feel like just his Homecoming arc 2.0. Whereas with Steve Rogers, his arc is much better handled. And again, it shows, I think Captain America's trilogy as a whole really shows him going through a really perfect arc. Like in First Avenger, it shows him how he plays a part in the American military in World War II. In Winter Soldier, it shows how he plays a part in the as a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then in Civil War, it shows how he is a member of the Avengers and what he brings to the table in those settings. And I think that is why the Captain America trilogy is the best trilogy in the MCU. And the films get progressively better with each quality. I think Civil War is the best film in the entire MCU and the best film in Steve Rogers' trilogy. Whereas Far From Home it's a good film, don't get me wrong. I fuck with Spider-Man Far From Home. Like, it may look like I'm talking shit about it, but I do like it. But it definitely falls in comparison to Homecoming and No Way Home. That is why Captain America the Winter Soldier and Spider-Man Far From Home follow the exact same formula, except one fails and the other succeeds. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below.